Bye-bye. Just like I just want next to me like that. Guys, this is an amazing episode. We've got Daniel Rizzy in the studio with us. Amazing guy. He is founding his own law firm. He's founding his own tech startup. Super interesting guy. He's totally our material. Daniel, what's up? Glad to have you.
Thanks for having me, Zach. I'm up to a lot of things. Hopefully I'm juggling them well, and hopefully I can add some value here with some legal, some business insight, and help people get through their 2023. And I love to help people and add value, and hopefully the universe pays it back. So let's get into it.
What I love about you, again, like, what I was saying, I've said to you multiple times, like I've had the pleasure of talking to so many different founders of so many different businesses, but I never had the ability to talk to someone who's starting their own law firm. And what I think that is so exciting is because you already have some of these big Bay Street firms, but maybe there's not a lot of firms representing the little guys or the smaller, smarter startup companies. So why don't, before we start, why don't you give us a rundown of your firm, what you guys practice, maybe talk a little bit about WeWatch, which I think your other company is called. Yeah. Give us the rundown.
Sure. So, hey guys, I'm Daniel Rizzy. Articled at a big firm after going to Osgood. COVID hit, decided to start my own practice. I was looking at all the other lawyers at the firm, second year associate, star, 5th year associate, 10th year call, partner, senior partner, and sort of nobody's happy.
Why?
That is the question. Why aren't they happy? Right. And I look at them, I go, am I going to be the outlier here? Am I going to be the exception? Am I, for whatever reason, I'm super special and I'm going to love it and everybody else kind of hates it? And I think, no, that question is, I'm not going to be any different. So decided to start my own practice during COVID. And I love the tech industry. I love entrepreneurs. I love founders. So I decided I'm just going to work with the tech guys. So I learned how to code in 2020. Harvard has a great introduction to coding course, which I recommend to everybody, CS50, and got the foundations for coding, started to make a mobile phone game, worked on that for 6 months.
Yourself.
Yeah.
You were making it yourself.
Yeah. It was probably a little too ambitious for a one guy thing because I can't draw or make the graphics there. And then sort of it got to the point where, okay, we gotta pay this law school debt off. So started the practice. I met my co-founder Colin sort of
through the law firm, or where did you meet him?
So I'm in a Facebook entrepreneur group, which is about maybe 9,000 people now.
Nice.
And he just posted, he's like, hey, I have a co-founder. I want a co-founder. I have this startup company.
He's a lawyer
who's interested.
Too, no?
No, he's a sales guy. So he's done a lot of sales. And it was really sketchy because he didn't have a picture for his Facebook profile. Yeah. But I'm in the mood of, I'm going to talk to everyone. I'm going to see what happens. And I talked to him. He's actually a really great guy. Decided to work with him. We do the paperwork. And that's how sort of WeWatch got started. And we can go into that a bit. But yeah, essentially now I work almost exclusively with tech startups.
Yeah.
So pre-revenue to sort of Series A, Series B. And essentially I talk to people for free. So most lawyers are trying to bill by the hour, bill by the email. If I can solve your problem in 15 minutes, just take it, run with it. And a lot of people, they come back in like 8 or 10 months. Hey, we're ready. We're making more money.
And they remember.
Yeah.
So I remember early days, and maybe Nerlin, you'll remember this too. When I was starting in-house, the reason why I used to make a lot of these videos, me and Evan and all the boys used to make a lot of these videos. And like the psychology behind it is like, okay, like we'll give them the information for free. We'll tell them what to do, but they're not actually going to do it. Right. Like they're going to tell us to do it. Right. But what they're going to appreciate is like, oh shit, this guy's taking time to meet with me. He's taking the 15 minutes to talk to me or whatever, however long it takes. Like, they remember who does it. So
yeah,
that's really cool, man. I have to say another thing too that I recognize, like you're such a happy guy. Like you seem like you're like you're just down for anything. Like you'll go out, you'll like go meet anybody, you'll talk to anybody. Do you think that like young lawyers come into the game with that mindset, and like if they're in the wrong area of law or in the wrong firm of law, like it just kills them? And look, I'll throw in another thing too. Like my father's a lawyer too, and like I'm not saying he's grumpy. He's actually very happy, but there are some times where I'm around him and like he's a little grumpy, because of the whatever's going on in business and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, do you think that like that's what happens? Do you think they just like eat their soul?
Yeah, I think law just kind of eats your soul. Maybe even if you're in the right area, because you get a ton of law school debt. you go to school for 3 years, all your colleagues, undergrad, they're making money, they're making jobs. If you're at a big firm, you're making $110,000 a year, but in Toronto, that's officially middle class, and you just went to school for 3 years, an extra 3 years and paid $100,000, and now you're middle class. So 60-hour weeks. And part of the reason why I left the big firm was just $100K for 60-hour weeks. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Am I going to work 60 hours a week to just be middle class and make someone else rich? Or am I going to sort of do that for myself and kind of, it's slower at first, but kind of the upside is a lot bigger. So law can be soul crushing for sure.
Yeah.
Obviously I have my own, personal predispositions, and, I get excited about things and I love helping people. But if you're just in it for the money, it sucks. And there's better things to do. If like you want to be rich and that's it, and you don't really care about anything else, like there's investment banking, there's even entrepreneurship might be better. And if you think you're the smartest guy in the world, why would you be a lawyer, right? Like you could be curing cancer, you could be out trading hedge funds and financial institutions, or you could be starting $1 billion business. So I talked to a lot of people saying, I want to be a lawyer, XYZ.
They reach out to you for advice.
Yeah. And it's prestigious, but nobody cares about the prestige really when you talk to them. And it's not that much money for the work. And if you don't like reading,
I don't like reading.
Yeah, don't be a lawyer. I don't like to read because there's a lot of reading.
I was actually thinking about wanting to like pursue a career in law, but like I'm not academic like that. I did, I don't know, there's something special about like maybe, like a passion for it and passion for like the role that law has in society, not just in business, right? And I think there's something special and amazing by that. When you were at this big firm, was it a firm that dealt with businesses or dealt with like all different type, like families and stuff?
Yeah, huge businesses. Can't say the client names, but
you would
know these companies.
FTX?
No, actually don't know who would have did them in Canada, but yeah. So I was doing intellectual property litigation and some business law on top of that. So for IP, Canada is basically hockey patents and pharmaceuticals. So billion-dollar pharmaceutical companies suing each other.
Just all
the time. And it's
all the time.
It's so calculated, right? They know, okay, this drug's going to make 200 mil. I pay the lawyers 2.5 mil. If I win, I get this much money, and they do the cost benefit analysis. And
jeez, wow.
Either it makes sense or it doesn't. And if it makes sense, they do it, even if they know they're going to lose. Well, maybe it makes sense, or we're just going to do it to delay them in the marketplace.
So they're on such a high level of scale. They input the cost of doing something wrong. A lot of these big financial companies will probably do it as well too. Like they or whatever it is, like they'll pay the penalty. Right, like very rich people park their Ferrari like illegally because it doesn't really matter. So that's incredible. That's incredible. Anyways, I asked you today to do something very important for me. I messaged you last night out of the blue. I wanted to really pick your brain on one of the five most important things in your mind that a startup founder should know, or a founder, or maybe even a CEO. We're really pointing this demographic to the younger audience that's going out there starting a business. What should founders know? What is the most important thing in your mind? Or you can rank them equally important, which they probably are.
Well, I sort of had 5 things.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and this is tough love for the founders out here. And if you hear it and you get a little irritated, or maybe it cuts a little close, just think about it and, hopefully we can all improve. So law is super important. And I'm not just saying it as a lawyer, but just as a business person, you need to be thinking about it. And what a lot of entrepreneurs fall into is you're not really thinking about it, and you get away with it because you're in the little leagues. So you don't make that much money. There's not a lot of people depending on you. Your customers don't have that much money to sue you. And the government doesn't really care because you're not big enough, right? And you can actually grow for quite a bit before you kind of make it into the big leagues. So when you're in those kind of beginning stages, you can do everything wrong legally and it doesn't matter. But if you want to have $1 billion company, if you want 100 mil a year, if you want 1 mil, 10 mil recurring revenue monthly, it's going to matter then. And my favorite example is Steve Jobs when he started Apple. Like he had a shareholders agreement with his co-founders, right? And so if you think your business is going to be a big business, like you have to do the legal part of it.
Yeah.
Right. And I have a favorite quote where the game of life is really funny because there's rules and only lawyers know the rules to life. And everybody else is just playing this game. They're going around when they don't know the rules. And just imagine you're playing chess with someone.
Yeah.
And you don't know how the pieces move.
Yeah.
So how are you going to plan and make strategic moves?
Well, dude, that's why that was another reason why I considered like a heavy path into law, because you know the rules.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a lawyer. You can
Yeah.
be, I've always loved the idea of like you going on boards, sitting on boards, keeping people safe, keeping people happy.
Mhm.
Right? No, 100%. I've never thought about it like that. That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. So sort of tying into that, the second thing is there's things you could do that immediately end your company. And it's not immediately sort of that day, but the long-term viability of the company's finished. So in intellectual property litigation, we had cases called bet the company litigation.
Sorry, what's it called?
Bet the company litigation.
Bet the company litigation.
And this is essentially your tech startup. You have the software, and then Google or Facebook or Amazon comes and says, no, we actually have a patent on that. You can't sell your services anymore. And now you're in trouble, right? Because they have millions of dollars to throw at you.
You got one shot at it.
You have one shot, and maybe it's a bad claim. Maybe they actually don't have anything, but now you have 3 years of litigation to go through.
Yeah.
And now you need one of the biggest law firms in the world to kind of defend you there. So,
and you might need to raise money to fight them, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I get now why it's one shot, because if you fail, like we're done.
Yeah, you're done.
Yeah, because they can counterclaim and then it's over. Like,
and if you're an innovator company who creates something, there's very particular rules before you get your patent, where if you break these rules, you can't get a patent anymore. Yeah. And, you can maybe Google these rules and you're like, oh, okay, I just won't do that. But there's actually like really specific cases that talk about, oh, you go to a conference in your industry and you bring your invention. In a lot of cases, you're done right there. There's cases where, you have this weird engine, innovative for whatever reason, and people can see it, but no one can go inside the engine. No one can take it apart. Now you can't get a patent on that engine.
Mm-hmm.
Even though people couldn't take it apart. No one could reverse engineer the engine at that conference because, they didn't have access. But the rule is you had it at the conference and now you're done.
Yeah. The law really is what I'm getting from this conversation. It's like a big level. It's the big leagues game. Like that's when it gets good. But it's important to start learning the law, like not the law, but like learning the game early on, right? That's what you're basically saying to people listening. Because look, I have a philosophy in life that if you're going to build a house, if you're going to spend your life building an empire or whatever it is, you better make sure that it's a damn good one. So I think that founders should definitely be thinking about, what the big leagues are going to look like and how to make sure that they're strategically set up. Now, let's hear about number 3. What's advice? Or maybe is there more on 2? I don't know.
No, so the third thing kind of ties into that. And you have to have really hard conversations with people. And in theory, if you just had every hard conversation you needed to, then you wouldn't need a lawyer as much. But hard conversations are super important because law is all about expectation, right? So you say, oh, come work for me. You're going to make a lot of money. All you're going to do is this small thing and we're going to make millions of dollars. You're like, yeah, that's super cool. And then you get to the company and, oh, they need help with this and that. You're not really good at that thing. Or you have a commercial contract with someone, you're supplying them goods. They're expecting to continue to expand the amount you're giving them and you only have a certain capacity. And as soon as expectations are broken, now you have a problem because people personally, they're upset. Financially, they were depending on you to kind of meet these expectations. And a lot of the times, if they weren't spoken about, you don't even know what they're expecting of you. So having those hard conversations are really important. And I think that's also just like a business tip, right? Where you start a business with 2 other people. What's the expectation, right? Is the expectation all 3 of us are going to work on this business full time? This is your life now? Or is the expectation that's going to be one guy and the other 2 are specialists and they're going to put in less work and that first guy's going to drive the business? So, but as soon as those expectations are breached and that guy who's like, I'm ready to drive the business, but these other 2 guys are not really like putting in 100%. They're hanging out with their family. They're going on trips. I'm here. I'm grinding. You get resentment. And eventually, if there's enough problems, the lawyers get involved. And if you don't have the paperwork, you haven't set the expectations, then it gets really ugly. And I've seen that. And it's bad. And you pay the lawyers so much more money later on. And you're going to have to. And it's better just to not have that happen.
I think at least what I'm trying to say, and like, I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. No one has a perfect scenario where they meet someone. But like, I think for us, at least in my company in-house, like we were very lucky because we met each other early on. And I'm not saying that doesn't mean like, it's whatever, but like it was either like we connect together and do this or like we just, not, right? And it wasn't like essentially like you'll come, like we're gonna make billions of dollars. Like obviously you talk about the stars and where you want to go and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But I also think there's something very highlight in terms of like picking your partner. For anyone listening, think about, one of the things that I say, and I've always thought about this, and it's like it just, you cannot measure somebody based on how much money they have, or
Mhm.
based on what the only thing you can do is measure them on what they've built. Right. So when you meet with people, young guys like us, for example, like we both came from pretty good backgrounds, and we wanted to kind of get into this. We wanted to do this. We wanted to push this to the end. But I can imagine there's a lot of scenarios where people on higher levels in life will say to the little guy, come work with me. Come, I actually have memories of people saying stuff like that to me as well, too. And just red flags go off in the air. Yeah. So pick your partners carefully is number 3.
Well, your situation's a great example because you have 3 guys, similar backgrounds, sort of grew up in the same places, in the same period of life. They both kind of want to do the same thing. So that's actually really easy. It's an easy situation because even if there's unset expectations, all your expectations are probably similar. Just by chance. Right? Whereas you sort of mentioned older guy tells the younger guy to come in. Older guy probably expects the younger guy to do all the work. And then the older guy's on his boat, hanging out, whatever, right? So, again, right? Like sometimes you get really lucky, and me and my co-founder, we're sort of also in the same kind of period of life, but there's also other things, right? Like let's say one of you guys gets cancer. And you're like, I'm going to die if I keep working this hard, right? What's the expectation there? Is the expectation go take 3 years to fight cancer and we're going to grow the business while you're out? Or is the expectation going to be, if you're out, take some equity, but you're not going to have your full stake? Or is the expectation that, okay, you're a specialist, you can sort of chill, but we're going to need you to do certain things. And that's a situation that people don't really think about. And it could be a number of things, right? Like somebody gets married 2 or 3 years earlier than somebody else. And now their wife is saying, hey, like you're never home. Like I need you. And now they're like, okay, my marriage, my business, a lot of things, even if everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing, things change. And if you have it on paper, it's written down. There's not a lot of room to sort of litigate and cause problems. But if you don't do that, then things happen, man. Even if you're best friends, whatever, like reasonably innocent things can happen. And like, that's going to affect the long-term viability of your business.
Yeah. 100%. What do we have for number 4?
Okay. Number 4. I'm trying to remember my points. Legal problems compound. So at first they're small. Okay. They don't matter. Again, you become that $1 billion company. They kind of amplify over time, but there's a lot of things that can be taken care of really early. And if you just do them right, they're kind of out of the way. Everybody's okay. This plays into expectations as well, because, you deal with the expectations early on. If there is a change in someone's life, you can have a fair conversation. Okay, this is what we said we do. Obviously this thing happened to you. We're understanding. How can we sort of make this work for everyone? So legal problems compound, and the more you push them off, the more money you're going to pay at the end of the day, if it doesn't kind of either sink your personal relationships or your business relationships with people.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So you gotta nip it in the butt right away when it happens.
Yeah. Trying to remember my 5th point here. It's all good.
It's all good. That's all good.
Yeah. Okay. The 5th thing, legal is super important. And if you run a good business, you have really good people. So you have to make sure you get a really good lawyer. And a good lawyer doesn't just tell you what the law is, and they don't just tell you your risks, but they're also in the business with you, thinking about how the business runs and what makes sense. And they're sort of giving business advice at the same time, even though we're not supposed to. The lawyer has to care about your business. So a lot of startups I know, the big firms kind of have like a really sweet getting started package. But what people have to understand is these are all going to be template documents.
Yeah.
Some first-year associate at 2 a.m. is going to fill out this template. That senior partner who you talk to, who's head of,
vice president,
whatever, partner, capital markets, whatever. He's not even going to think about your file. And the business model there is, okay, we kind of throw you a freebie, and then if you're that 1 out of 10 companies who are actually successful, then you're going to get a little bit of attention. But do you kind of want that treatment? Do you kind of want someone who's just like, statistically, we have to do this, but we don't really care?
Yeah.
Or do you want someone who's going to sit down with you for an hour, 2 hours, learn about the business, You have a call 3 or 4 times a year, just checking in just to make sure what happens. And they're thinking ahead on like what's going to happen. What are we planning for? And they kind of care.
Yeah.
So,
I love that. I love that custom niche approach. I feel like 100%. It's like we've done it 1,000 times. We might as well just do it again. Like get them going, keep them happy, whatever it is. But you're right. It's just like a cog in the machine. Do you think the future of law is going to become more personal where like, you know, you maybe work with a very niche area with a very niche type of founders? Like, do you think we're going more personal like that? Because guys like us, like we want people that are very close to us. Like we're very close to our accountant, not like, you know, close, but like talk to them quite often, very close to the people that like serviced our business, like our, you know, web team, paid ad team. Like that's something that we're very important in terms of doing it. Do you think that you'll see the same with like legal kind of going a little bit closer?
Yeah. So part of the things, it's really hard to find good lawyers. So a lot of people, they don't kind of believe it exists, right? They've worked with the big firm. There's a certain level of quality that's kind of guaranteed with the big firm, but
what is quality like in terms of results, right?
Just the documents work. There's no glaring issues, but you know, it's not that tailored, personalized approach. And I think going forward, we're going to see a lot more people leaving the big firms because that lifestyle is just unsustainable. Yeah. And you can run a fully remote practice, right? So you don't need to be in the office. You don't have to spend millions of dollars for those nice Bay Street offices. You just have to show
the art on the wall. It's crazy. The art that they have, like it's nuts.
And they rotate the art too. So they'll buy new art and like switch it in and out.
They hold it on the company. That's smart.
Yeah. And then they'll renovate. And the firm I was working with, they had 6 floors in the building and they're like, oh, we want stairs between all the 6 floors. So they just, you know, broke the floor on one part and then the staircase would go up and down.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of expenses, which I think are probably unnecessary. Part of it's to kind of have the image of we're this big successful firm, but you know, if you're a startup, you have no need for that, right? You need tailored attention. You need someone who cares.
Yeah.
And again, like if I work with a bunch of startups, like I know all their problems, right? I know what's going on in fundraising. You know, the big firms, they have people who raise really quickly, but those are second, third, fourth time founders who can kind of raise pre-product, pre-revenue. Yeah. Whereas I work with people who have never done a company before, and I can see like if you don't have traction, like you're wasting your time trying to raise. Unless you're this hyper charismatic person. You know, maybe you worked at Google, maybe you have some really relevant experience. It's super, super hard to raise in Canada in particular as well.
Yeah, and the time right now that we're going into, it's gonna be hard.
And I've seen law firms be very predatory to founders as well. I've seen
in what ways?
So I've seen company comes in, they're trying to raise money. Safe Note is super cheap to raise on. You should have a lawyer, but it's very minimal involvement from the lawyer. Yeah. Law firm goes, hey, I'd love to invest 50 grand into your company. You're like, oh, great. My first check. This is great. Hey guys, like here's the safe agreement. They go, hold on. We're not going to do a safe agreement. We have to do a convertible note. Whatever reasons they give you.
For the people listening, what are these two things?
Okay.
Terminologies?
So a safe note lets you fundraise money with very little legal documentation, and a convertible note. So on a safe note, someone puts in 5 grand. When you do your VC fundraising round, which could be a pre-seed now because pre-seeds are crazy, but you know, Series A is generally what it is. You raise $1 million. That safe note converts into shares at the same shares that the VCs would be getting at the Series A.
And that's what the law firms want, or they don't want that?
Law firms want a bill.
Okay, what's a bill?
They want to bill you monies. They want to spend time on the file.
So it's like,
get money from you.
Hey man, like you should do some marketing. Here's 50 grand. We're also going to invest into your business. And also, by the way, you're going to pay us 100K over the next year.
Yeah. So
is it like that more or less?
Yeah, essentially that. For marketing? You're trying to raise on a safe note. They say, we'll give you 50K, but like we have to do a convertible note, which is more legal work.
Which is like 30 grand.
They put in 50K and then it turns out the bill for the
80 grand.
The bill for the convertible note is 50 grand. Yeah. So they put in 50 and then they bill you 50, which 50 grand for convertible notes disgusting. If this has happened to you, like reach out because you've
But hold on. Why would they give them the money? Like then they're giving the work for free though.
So let's say I'm a senior partner at a firm.
Okay.
Right. I put 50 grand into this company.
Yes.
Right. Now, if this company goes big, I make a lot of money, but also now this company comes back to me
because we're also hooked on you. Like we know Dan, we know the team.
Right.
Exactly.
In the future, we're going to get more work from them, but also I get 50 grand worth of billables.
Yeah.
So to the firm, I brought in 50 grand worth of work. So I'm getting like origination credits for that 50 grand. So it's almost double. I get a 50 grand investment. I also get 50 grand worth of work for the law firm. So I look like I'm bringing in business.
Yeah.
And then if this company ever blows up and gets big, well, I'm the guy who brought them in. I'm a big shot. I'm a big shot investor. So,
and how like stuck are these companies? Like, you know what I mean? Like if I look at it, right, like they look like they've just gotten, like, if I'm understanding this correctly, they just got 50 grand worth of work, right, at the end of the day, like next day after, right? Like,
yeah.
how stuck are they to like go and find another lawyer? Like,
yeah, well, you can always get a bill assessed by the law society, and a convertible note, I mean, all things considered, should 10 to 15 grand.
Yeah.
So
not 50 grand.
Not 50 grand. There's a conflict of interest there, recommending the safe note over the convertible, or recommending the convertible note over the safe note.
It's basically you're giving me back money.
Right. It's more expensive for the founder, so the lawyer makes more money. So there's a huge conflict of interest. If this has happened to you, reach out.
Yeah.
We can get it sorted for you. But
all his stuff is going to be in the bio, by the way, too. You'll figure it out. You just go down the rabbit hole, you'll find him eventually.
But yeah, that just goes into the point of you need a great lawyer, because I would never do that to someone, right? I want you to go raise the money. I want you to make money, and then we're going to grow together, right? So I would for sure say, okay, do the safe note. Here's the template, because the Y Combinator template's out there, and it's basically the standard. I'm not charging for that. Go forth, go raise money, make some money, and then come back, and like we're going to get you set up.
Love that, dude. That's sick, man. I love that. Again, like when I met you, like we clicked in terms of like what you're doing for the way that you're setting up the business, the way you're doing it. I'd love to hear about some legal stories, like not like cases you worked on, obviously, like just cases in general, like case law in general that like you find fascinating, right? Like I know we can talk about OJ, but like what is your OJ? Like what are you like thinking about? What's like, holy shit, that was crazy. We can learn a ton from that. Okay. Sorry to put you on the spot, but I'm curious.
This is a harder question than the legal fundamentals. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff in law school. You learn criminal law, all different types, constitutional law. Trying to think a very. Okay, I'll talk. I sort of brought up the patent law thing of you kind of bring your invention to this conference and now you can't get a patent
because everyone saw it.
Yeah. But you think, well, just because they saw it doesn't mean they know how it works.
Yeah.
But the case law just says that doesn't matter. So there's even a case where this professor had his invention. He went from his office, went through the main courtyard of the university to a different lab. Holding it. And they said that's a disclosure of the invention, and now you can't get a patent.
Shit.
So how crazy is that, right? Yeah. Like you're just on campus.
But again, you always go back to number one point, which I think like I'm no lawyer. Sometimes maybe I'll pretend to be when I'm talking to my girlfriend. She's a lawyer. So we'll go back and forth. She kills me every time. But what I'll say is that I think out of all 5 of your points, that first one is really, really key. Know the rules when you're playing chess, right? And by the way, also too, I think it's also important on the other side of that for me to go and just start learning everything about media law or everything about that is not the right. You need to have someone close to you that again is not looking to suck the money right out of your system, but can essentially provide you advice on that. You need someone that again, all 5 of your points kind of sink into each other. One. Yeah.
And it's the chess. I love the chess example because instead of saying, I don't know the rules, but you know the rules. Let's say we both don't know the rules, but you have a coach right beside you.
Yeah.
Telling you, oh, you could do this.
Yeah.
You could do that. So your competitors have that and you don't.
Yeah.
And you see what they do and you're like, oh, I guess I could copy that, but does it make sense for me to copy that? And you don't really know.
You have to check if there's a patent. Well, you have to do X, Y, and Z. And that's like someone in your role would come in. Okay. Chat GDP. Is this a friend of the law industry or an enemy of the law industry? Because I've heard some compelling arguments to be a very good friend in terms of like, give me a scenario where the professor didn't because you want to build the case against it, right? So you'd look for precedents on that. But then I've also heard the flip side where it's write me a contract and make it 10 pages and, screw over partner A, make it very favorable to partner B.
Yeah. So that's actually really good timing because I'm actually trying out a new product by Rally Legal called Spellbook, which is a word plugin that actually uses, GPT-3 to kind of do all the stuff Chat GPT does. So, because here's the thing, right? Here's the issue with the legal industry is if your AI is 85% right most of the time, that might be better than a person. But at a law firm, we have 6, 7, 8 people looking at it.
Yeah.
So each of those 8 people have an 85% chance. So then it comes down to, okay, well, what are the mistakes it's making consistently? Right. So I think the general consensus has been entry-level positions are definitely affected by this. But is the specialist going to be removed? Probably not. Could it get to the point where they could? We kind of have this just issue with general AI. And once general AI actually exists, everybody's kind of done.
We're done. It's over.
Doctors,
you like
lawyers.
what I did to you in the chat the other day, a couple of weeks ago. So we have this, for those listening, we have this massive Slack community, around 150 founders only. We're only letting founders in this group, but essentially 150, 200 people. And Rizzy writes in the group, hey, does anyone know, 5 points I could make a video for? I go immediately to the program. I'm like, name me 100 or like name me 50, and I just spout them out. But yeah, I think it's gonna be quite interesting. I mean, again, I'm not a lawyer, but like I can see the importance of case law. I mean, I've taken strategies that my father has at least taught me in terms of how to critically think about things, right? Like how to like kind of dissect things and like how to look for weaknesses. Another point you just made there is you're right. Yeah, 80% of the work is done, but another lawyer can easily identify that 20% opening and right in.
Yeah, and then that's what the legal industry would turn into, right? So now a lawyer knows exactly what the chatbot's going to spit out.
Yeah. We're ready for it.
And then what are the holes? Well, I already know.
Yeah.
And then, okay, well, maybe you're smart about it and you do certain prompts.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I've looked on the internet. I know all the guides that say how to use Chat GPT to do your legal contracts. And I've seen all the prompts and I kind of know what it does. So people adapt, and AI isn't self-adapting yet.
Yeah.
So it's just people get more specialized.
Yeah. The way I've always thought about the law and like a legal, my father was a litigator. So like he does a little bit of the opposite of what you do, but the way I've always thought about, whether, being in litigation, it's like kind of like Pong, like here, but one side eventually will slip up.
Yeah.
And you have these both sides powering these two sides. Eventually it just becomes like a mirror, and it's like back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. Well, he's going to say this. I'm going to say that. I wasn't driving. He was driving. She was driving. Like, like it doesn't matter what's up and what's going on. So it's quite interesting to see where we go.
Yeah. And I mean, a big thing about law is you kind of need to know the facts of the situation. And AI right now isn't really good at kind of going into the world and getting information out of people. So I know all the right questions to ask someone.
Yeah.
And my questions are going to adjust depending on what they tell me.
Yeah.
But AI is not super good at it. Like you have to feed AI the perfect information to get the best results. So clients come to you, stories change. Oh, you go, what about this? And like, oh, well, I didn't think that's related to this. Yeah, actually that happened. Litigators are famous for saying, if 2 days before trial, your client doesn't come into your office and like blows up your case by telling you some piece of information they didn't tell you, like you're not doing litigation properly. So yeah, it's AI still has its weaknesses. But people can figure out how to use it and use it effectively, kind of like in a way that's going to make you money. They're going to make money.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you a story and I'll think about it. A gentleman, that may be sitting across from you, did something a little bad when he was 18. He was at Wasaga Beach. And by the way, I was never drinking and driving. I never drank and drive, but he had a pickup truck. And he thought it was acceptable to put set friends. I don't know. Where'd you go to high school?
Thistletown. So northwest of Etobicoke.
Okay. So like all the high schools would go to Wasaga and chill. And your boy, who I'm not going to name, had this pickup truck, and he thought it was acceptable to put his set friends in the back of the pickup truck, like we're in like Delray Beach here or something, and drive down to the beach in Wasaga Beach. And this cop pulls me over, obviously. And again, like I'm not like I was always like a very, I wasn't trying to be a shit. But anyways, what happened was he gives me a ticket and stuff like that. It was a stupid thing. I shouldn't have done it in the first place. But when I went to court, right, a set lawyer who you also may know as well too, came in and said, "Hey, this isn't because it was a reckless driving charge, right? Like that is what they classified at." But he immediately went up to not the judge, but the someone before the judge. What's that called? I guess like a
bailiff.
No, the crown in this case. The crown went up to the crown and said, "This isn't a reckless driving clause. This is a seatbelt felony, right?" Like my question for you, and by the way, like again, like. This person that we're talking about is so deep into the law, right? He's so deep into the law that like he thinks like that. If you put me in that and like defend yourself, like I never would have thought about fucking seatbelts. I'd be thinking about like, sorry, like I tried to drive slow, like I didn't know, right? So are we gonna get to a point where the AI is able to play the game like that? Or is it just gonna be learning from case law? Is it gonna be able to identify amazing opportunities? And then maybe there's another thing going on in the background where it's like risk assessment. right? Because this gentleman probably came in there before, probably knew about it, probably knew that there's like a 95% chance that this is going to get thrown out.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's going to have to happen at the back end. Like, what are the percentages of this AI making, like, is it gutty, right? Like, what is the risk here?
For sure.
Right.
Yeah. So it's all theoretically possible. It's just a matter of, are these billion-dollar legal tech companies going to do it? But like, if you train the AI in a very specific way, so, okay, we want it to do legal, we want it to do litigation, and now I'm going to go, okay, what happens? Here are all the different traffic violations, and I have 5 or 6 super experienced lawyers, and like, how do each of these play out?
Yeah.
And then if you're training the model on that, you can make it happen, right? Is some random guy who knows nothing about law, but he's a really great coder, is he going to be able to do that? No.
Yeah.
But, if you can afford to pay 6, 7, 800 grand worth of salaries to get these senior guys on board and train the models with it, that's definitely possible, because the decision tree is not crazy, right? Okay, let's say it's drunk driving. Here's a list of all the sort of defenses we've ever used, and like you can go through that pretty easily, and then maybe rank them, put some more information in, and then you could have a judge list in each jurisdiction of who's more friendly to what. It's definitely possible. It's a lot of footwork, and law in particular, you can't just get 8 coders together and make it work.
Yeah.
You have to have lawyers, you have to have people who understand the legal industry, and you have to have the people who have the experience. So, but yeah, if Thomson Reuters wanted to do that, they probably could.
Yeah.
But they'd have to invest a lot of money into it.
Interesting. You think that, you don't have to comment or not, but do you think that this app, ChatGPT, would have made law school like way easier back in the day?
Assuming it had the proper knowledge, yeah, for sure. Because as much as they want to say law school exams are about thinking, most of it's regurgitation. So, yeah, it would have helped for sure.
Yeah. I just want to know too, for everyone listening, we don't have just like Rizzy went to Osgood, which is kind of like our Harvard law. So like, that's another reason why you should get in line and like, call this guy 100%.
Yeah, and I'm chill about it too.
Yeah,
I'm
he's
not
chill. He's not like,
face.
preppy. No, I don't know. I think it's a great institution. I think it's, I think.
Yeah, it was expensive though. I'm still paying for it.
My dad went to Western. My partner's dad. Where did your dad go? He said, oh yeah. So his father also went to Osgood back in the day. It's like this institution that's been around and for a while. So it's really, really cool. But I also will say too, if there's any lawyers that are listening too, and maybe I don't speak on this, like I actually don't think it doesn't really matter where you go to law school. I think is that like a fair point to say? Yeah,
well, so we kind of have three categories in law. We have minders, finders, and grinders.
Can we repeat that, please?
Minders, finders, and grinders. So minders are like kind of the thinkers, the strategists. So they know all the case law. They know how the law works. The finders are the people who bring in the clients. And
do they do the work, the finders?
In theory, they should, but
yeah,
a lot of the times, no.
The grinders do.
And then the grinders are the workforce, right? So I have 50 contracts that need to get done. That guy does it. 14-hour days, 16-hour days. He's okay. He does that. So going to law school, doing well in law school, and doing well in undergrad to go to a good law school.
Yeah,
that benefits the grinders, and the minders benefit as well because maybe it's a bit easier for them, so they have to work a bit less as hard. But the finders, there's no benefit from them, right? Being a finder doesn't make you better at law school or undergrad.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could go to the worst law school in the world, pick a practice area, just learn that law, maybe over 2 or 3 years in practice, and then you find clients, and then you're strategic and you think about it and you'll be fine. So yeah, law school isn't correlated with making money. It is correlated with like getting a big firm job.
Yeah.
But you can make a lot more money on your own if you're a good business guy.
So tell me the plan for your firm. And I remember we talked about this. Like where are we in 15 years?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about WeWatch. I'm talking about the firm.
Sure.
What are we doing here?
So 2023, I think I'm going to shift the business model a bit where I'm not a huge grinder. I worked hard as hell, undergrad, law school. I'm slowing down a bit. I'm a little tired. I'm not super old, but that's just how I am. So I'm definitely more of a minder finder, probably more minder than finder.
Dude,
so,
I love this. I love this.
Yeah.
Like it's sick. Like the minder finder grinder.
Yeah. So what I need to do now is I need to find companies where I can add insane value.
Yeah.
For those high leverage moments. Right. And then they pay me for that versus I have 700 clients. I'm doing 50 contracts a week, grind out high volume. I want low volume, high impact. So companies who founders have a certain skill set and I can fill in the gaps, or certain companies with very complicated issues. And if I don't know them, I can come on board, say, okay, we need 7 different lawyers for this.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the back and forth for them. I'm going to make sure you're not getting ripped off. I can speak the lawyer lingo to them. I know what to give them, so it's cheaper and it's faster and more efficient. So it's about just super high leverage activity for companies and helping them along, and not necessarily about I'm going to review 50 contracts a month and make X amount of money, because I'm just not set up to be that grinder. I'd prefer one file, hyper complicated, crazy stuff's going on. Nobody knows what to do. That's where I thrive, versus same thing over and over again for 15 years. So hopefully I find an early stage company. I help them get to $1 billion status. And then I get some equity, and that's sort of where I'm going.
And we can have like in-house, can have like a small like office studio, like a satellite studio at like,
we'll hook you up.
What's a firm called? Rizzy?
Rizzy.
Rizzy. Have I been pronouncing your last name? Butchering it?
It's the Canadian way is Rizzy, and I actually kind of like how that sounds more. But like,
you're Italian, right?
Italian.
Yeah. See, you know, like you might find it weird sometimes that I call you by your last name, but you know, it's like a very Jewish thing. Like it's a very Jewish thing to do. Like
it sounds fun. You know, you get
like, because like what's better? It's like, hey Daniel, or like Rizzy, my man. Like, what's up, guys? I want to thank you guys so much for this. Actually, before we go, one final thing.
Sure.
Young lawyers that are coming out of the game. You know, you've navigated, you've probably had some failures, you've had some wins. What should young lawyers be thinking about? You know, they're maybe just finishing up articling or whatever. They're just finishing up school. Let's get to there. They're just finishing up school.
Okay. So minder, finder, grinder, figure out what you are. We're all a mix of some. So 1, you have to understand your strengths. 2 is you have to learn business. So I love Alex Hormozy. He doesn't talk about law at all, but if you can kind of connect the dots there, it's going to be great. And a lot of lawyers are great lawyers and they're bad business people. So learn business stuff, and you got to take risks. You went to law school because you don't like risk. You're going to fail in life if you don't take risk.
Dude, that was incredible. Guys, thank you so much. Subscribe to The Journey. We've got YouTube. We're, all over. Shub, what should I say? Like, give me the rundown. Yeah. It has to be live.
One take.
Come on. Subscribe to our YouTube, follow us on Instagram, and join The Journey. It's for founders only. www.takethejourney.co. Beautiful.
Awesome.
Thanks, dude. That was amazing. I'm curious. You play video games?
Yeah.
Fuck. You play Dark Souls, don't you?
I didn't play any of them. I played Elden Ring though.